Alright, welcome back to Mr. Dunn's classroom. Today, you're going to learn about patterns. So let's get started. Alright, patterns. So we got two basic type of patterns. We have, what is a pattern first of all, right? It's a repeated shape over and over and over, but it doesn't change. So patterns that are identical, these are called regular patterns, and that's what we're going to focus on this project. Patterns that are irregular patterns are things like a bunch of circles, but they're all different colors and they're all different sizes, right? Where a regular pattern, they'll all be the same size and all the same color, the same shape, okay? So you have irregular that seems like a pattern, but it's not really a true pattern. Then you have a regular pattern that is your, like a print. Every time, presume money is a pattern, right? Printed over and over. Let's get started on this project. So we're going to use markers, and we're going to make a dictionary of patterns, and then from that we'll practice on that, and then we'll use our marker because we can't erase that. We'll take it to the paper and fill out a cool name, or you can call it your initials on an animal. Alright, we're going to put a different pattern in a different section and a whole list of rules to follow on this project, so don't skip too much. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is get a piece of scratch paper and divide it up into 14 areas. So a fun way to do it is to start off your paper, drag a line across your paper and off the other side, curve, swirls, not too many swirls, but be very cognizant of what you're dividing up because you don't want to end up with teeny little areas that you cannot fill in with a pattern. So by going through the lines like this with a loop, it creates divides that loop in half, see? Now we have, 1, 2, 3, 15 patterns or so. We want between 10 and 15 patterns. So here's some examples of some student work, right? I don't know if I talked about line patterns and shape patterns, so there's a couple good line patterns, but there's an infinite amount of shape patterns, obviously. So check those out: wavies, curls, zigzags, lightning bolts, stars, triangles, circles, squares, of course. These arcs. You can do letters, all letters of the alphabet. Alright, so I have this thing to help you along if you're here going to be in class. But if you're home, you might want to, I don't know, take a look at that, come back to it, note the timestamp. And there's lots of patterns here, but some of these are irregular, so I'm Xing out the irregular ones and telling you that they're not repeated, they're not identical, right? This blob and that blob are different, so no, right? These are regular patterns. This one, maybe not. This one, no. This one, yes, circle, 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 or hexagon, hexagon, all in a row. These are good too, patterns, but remember, we're not going to color in anything solid. That's going to come up on the directions here soon. All these other ones look good. Checkerboards, no, be careful because that is tempting for us to color those things in solid again, like those other ones. See these solid pieces? Don't do that. You can do the shape, just don't color it in solid. Alright, here's some other crazy ones, like the honeybee comb and stripes, but the circle one's good, the triangles. But this is some of these are random. Lots here to choose from. We got all these in class. You can take a look at that, freeze the frame. Again, watch out for the temptation to color in anything solid. Here's some art using all kinds of patterns, and some that you saw there. Most of these are shape patterns, but there are some line ones in there. It's super small in detail, actually kind of hard to see here, isn't it? Under my camera. So let's get to the project now. We'll go back to those pattern dictionaries, and we're going to put our ideas into this paper here that we made. I did it in Sharpie because the students often want to trace that. You don't need to do it in Sharpie. That's why the examples were just in pencil. So here's what we're going to try to do. Here's our project. Right? So you got wavy line patterns, and we have star patterns, circle patterns. The yellow is actually like little rainbow arcs, so it's hard to see that one. But notice this line pattern behind the word Jason there are very wavy. They're not shallow waves. They're back and forth strongly, so be careful on that one. You have a tendency to want to go really flat with that. Pretty soon you're just making a straight line. And one of the rules is no straight lines. Patterns, okay? This looks like straight lines, but with dots and dashes and stuff like that.
Here's a nice zigzag F, right? Zigzag behind the letters, triangles, squares, and chain, like a chain link thing in the J. Perfectly spaced. She used a stencil to trace out this 0 in the neck, so that came out really perfect. It looks cool, and the more perfect it is, the kind of the cooler it looks. See here, the line behind the Josh is really flat. I'm not looking for that. We don't want that. We want really back and forth lines. See, I'm telling you right there, go back and forth, back and forth. It creates too much white area, too much white space. So here the student did their own name and did their own fish. Didn't trace one of mine. Careful on that upper fin there. That was not a pattern. It was getting bigger and larger. It's called morphine, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So all of these are a different pattern. And there's looking good. A lot of shape patterns. All right, so we're going to try to... Okay, so there are quite a few little rules to watch out for on this project. And there are rules to help it make it come out better, right? To look better. So number one, you've done straight lines your whole life, used rulers. We don't want to do that one. Let's skip the easiest one. You're already going to be able to do triangles and squares, so no straight lines like that. Ends up being just hatching and doesn't look so nice. Second, no polka dots. Again, too easy, and you end up smashing the markers and flattening the tips out, polka dot and everything. So let's just skip that one. Rule number 3. And I mentioned this already, no coloring in anything solid, no coloring shapes or stripes or things like that. Draw the shape and leave it alone. We want to do that. What we don't want to do is that. No, this is the no aisle. All right, number 4. No morphine. Not morphine, the drug that takes pain away when they're cutting your leg off, but rather a change, something changing from one thing to another. It morphed, the metamorphosis like you hear in science. So here's a shape you might have that you're trying to fill in with a pattern. So here's a line. This is very common when everyone does an arc, the bigger arc, a bigger arc, and a bigger arc, and it's changing. It's getting bigger, isn't it? It's not staying the same. Instead, what you want to do is make that first arc and keep whatever size that is, keep that same size. Or do this 1, 2, 3 and keep the same size. Here's another morphine happening because I'm showing what not to do. The square is slowly being rounded off, and pretty soon you've got a circle. So from a square to a circle. Yeah, this is morphine. Morphine in size, morphine in shape. So watch out for that. I can't see what I'm writing there. Small to big, yeah. Square to circle, whatever. All right, number 5. So this is just to help it make it come out better. You want to place line patterns next to shape patterns. If you put line patterns next to line patterns, they blend together, doesn't pop as well. And same with shape patterns next to shape patterns, doesn't look as good. It just helps the contrast effect better. And this is mostly between the letters in the center of your animal and the background. You want to separate them. All right, number 6, you want to use a different pattern in every area because there's thousands of patterns to choose from. So please don't use the same pattern over and over or more than once. All right. Finally, number 7, which is a symbol of completion, that is, use a different color in each area. Although I do allow students to use the same color for the initials, the 2 letters in the middle. All right. And so, yeah, letters can be the same. Okay, here's how you do it. I have these animals already pre-done. You may have to make your own if you're at home. We use a double length paper here, so it's double wide. Two art sheets put together, or two normal art pieces of paper put together. All right, so then we just trace it. That's why I did it in Sharpie, but we're going to trace it right to Sharpie. You don't need to go to pencil and then to Sharpie, because then you see the pencil sticking out of the Sharpie. It's easy enough to see. Go for it. Make long, smooth lines. When you take it off, no one can see that you weren't perfect, unless you really go off. Because I'll get people making hatching lines on there, trying to sketch it out when you're just tracing. You don't need to do that. Like, nice clean lines. But if you're making your own, you might want to do it in pencil. Clean it all up, sketch lightly, and then go over it all with Sharpie. So you'll go over this outline with Sharpie, and once you draw in your letters inside that area, you'll see that coming up. You'll do that with Sharpie as well. So you can see we're creating a bunch of different areas. In each area, we're going to put our different patterns, and line patterns and shape patterns. All right, there's our animal. I've got like 6 or 7 to choose from: a turtle, a penguin, a fish, this whale, the pelican, the flamingo. Oh, I think there's even penguin. I said. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna draw these letters out. After I do a lot, I don't even need to use pencil. I go right to Sharpie. But you can get up to 3 or 4 letters inside this longer one, but all the rest, you just want to have 2 really big letters in there. You want to keep, if you're doing this at home, you want to keep your letters really fat and big because you're going to fill it with a pattern. So you don't want to have a really skinny little small letters inside a huge big space there. You want equal amount of space in the letters versus behind the letters. All right. Mess that up a little bit. I'm going to redraw that there. And then once you have that up nice, done, UNN. Problems there. Then you'll Sharpie over all of that, and it'll look awesome. Be ready to marker it. I know, I'm fast, aren't I? We'll do a little time lapse here and get past this. You can do your letters, and then we'll get started together on the patterns here. Here we go, pull out your little design. We want to practice on that first once we pick a shape. We're going to go with the head there first for me, so I'm looking for a good design. I think I'm going to choose swirls there. So I'm going to make swirls. Take your pencil and you practice on your little pattern dictionary. You can practice right to mark if you want, if you have your markers. Because you got to realize your marker will just make a big dot there if you're too small. You can't make it small, it's got to be big enough. The fatter your markers are, the bigger a swirl you got to make. So the faster it goes, really. So notice how I'm making them in rows and lining them up. That's what you want to do. Fill up your space. There we go. That was easy. I didn't have any problems. Not too complicated. So I give it a shot with the marker. I'm going to go purple. Nope. I take that back. I'll go dark something. Blue maybe. It's not black though. I know that. Please don't use black in any of the areas. And there we go. Fill it up with the pattern. Notice the perfect rows. All right, let's look at another color and another pattern. I like these little flower, 3-petaled flowers. I'm going to practice here on this paper. Up, one down, one left, one right. Put little dots on each corners. That's what it has there in the picture. Although, at first it seemed easy, but it kind of got a little more difficult. Making all petals, all 4 petals the same size turned out to be harder than I thought. But with a little practice, the reason we do this, it kind of came together. I tried some different techniques for laying them down, doing each side of the petal separately. I still was getting too small there, which made it it'd be a big blob with the marker. And they almost touch. Don't want them to touch. Anyways, do your best. Pick your patterns and practice on the paper. And then get your marker, pick your color, and put them in your pattern design project. Alright, so I'm going to speed up this process. You can see it all come together. Happy pattern making!
Alright, that's it for the pattern project. Get out there and get going on it. Good luck, you can do this.